foods that we can't eat outside Yerushalayim, let's say, is Masa Sheni. Is the tithes that you bring every first and second and fourth and fifth year, that you have to separate 10% and bring it to Yerushalayim, and you eat it in Jerusalem. So the Torah says you can't eat. The Torah says you can't eat in your private gates. In your private gates, mean if you're living in Tel Aviv or wherever you're living in Bnei Brak, you can't eat in your private gates this Maaseh Sheni. You have to go and bring it to Jerusalem, bring it to the old city and eat it there. And we explained in the past, perhaps, why does Hashem want that to happen? Hashem wants us to be in such a holy place, the old city where the Sanhedrin is, and all the Chachamim, it's the house of the Chachamim, and the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple. There's a lot of inspiration that will be found in the old city. Even today, there's a lot of inspiration today. People are found today. We have the Kotel in the old city. There's something left. But imagine if you have the real Beit HaMikdash in full, the full Beit HaMikdash in full swing. You can imagine the miracles that happened there. You can imagine the inspiration that it would bring the people, and the fact that you are forced to be there, because you are forced to eat your Maaseh Sheni there, will create a structure of inspiration for everybody. The pasuk talks about not only your Maaseh, your Maaseh, which would mean the Maaseh Sheni, because the Levi does not have to eat his Maaseh Rishon in Yerushalayim. There's no such halacha. The 10%, we give the 10% to the Levi every year. He gets 10%. He does not have to eat that in Yerushalayim. He can eat the Levi. This is his regular food. It's like his regular supply, just like Truma that's given to the Kohen does not have to be in Yerushalayim. This is regular food. This is the Truma is the food to the Kohen. And Maaseh Rishon is the regular food to the Levi. So therefore, there's 42 cities that that the Levium live in. They don't live just in Jerusalem. You know what I'm saying? They live in different places, and therefore, this is not restricted and limited to the old city. However, Maaseh Sheni is restricted to the old city, and also the pasuk talks about other things. The pasuk talks about your firstborn animal. The pasuk talks about your nidarim. You make a vow, and the pasuk talks about your nidavot. Now, there's something called a neder and a dava. A neder is when you accept upon yourself to bring a certain offering. The dava is when you consecrate a specific animal as an offering. That's the difference between a neder and a dava. The Gemara will elaborate a little more. You know what that means? The Gemara says a neder means when you accept something. If I accept to bring a korban shlamim or korban todah, I say I'm going to bring this Thanksgiving offering. Then I designate a certain animal. This should be for the Thanksgiving offering. And then something happens to the animal dies. Do I need to bring another animal instead? Yes, because I accepted upon myself to bring this offering. So it's upon me. So something happens to the animal, I still got to bring a new, different animal. But if I say this animal should be brought as an offering, so the whole consecration was limited to this animal specifically. But if this animal is not here, I don't have to. I have no responsibility. That's what the Gemara says. The difference between a neder is upon the person, right, Mr. Safti, and the dava is on the thing. In the Gemara's language, the neder is harei alai, upon me. Then I have responsibility to bring something else if something happens to this animal that I consecrate subsequently. And the dava is harei zu, this. I'm very specific. And another pasuk continues and it says trumat yadecha, that the truma of your hand you can't eat in your personal gate, in your personal home. Now, what does trumat yadecha mean? It doesn't mean truma. We said truma is allowed to be eaten anywhere. The Kohen can eat the truma. So the Gemara says trumat yadecha means the bikurim. the first fruits, because the first fruits have the language of V'lokach hatena miyadecha. The Kohen takes the basket of fruit from your hand. Yadecha, you find, is referring to the Bikurim. So here's also a pasuk about the Bikurim, that the first fruits have to be eaten in Yerushalayim. The first fruits, which is unique, it goes to the Kohen. It goes to the Kohen. And even though other gifts that go to the Kohen, not all, many, I mean, Truma is eaten out, can be eaten out to Yerushalayim, but the Bikurim, these first fruits, these 7 fruits, which you actually have to make a trip to the Beit HaMikdash with these fruits. In contrast to regular Truma, you're in Bnei Brak, you're in wherever you are in Israel, you give the Kohen the Truma. You don't have to make a trip to Beit HaMikdash. But the first fruits of your crops, of 7 specific first fruits of Israel, only 7 items that grow, your 7 first fruits that you're responsible to bring to the Beit HaMikdash, that the mitzvah of the Bikurim only applies to these 7 fruits. Chit of Israel, wheat, barley, dates, figs, pomegranates, olives, these are some of the, and grapes. These are the 7 species of the land of Israel. And by the way, we were discussing, Adam, last week we were discussing certain laws about the after bracha, right? We were discussing some of the laws we were doing, and these species, we pointed out, have a special after bracha. These fruits, let's say the grapes, the olives, pomegranates, figs, they have a special after bracha. They don't get to just regular boring nefashot. These special fruits of the land of Israel. Mr. Safdie, any comment on that? Okay. So we're back in the Gemara on Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. That's a little bit of the background to just a little review to get a picture of what we're saying. Now, Rabbi Shimon, what he does here is he analyzes the verse with an understanding that, sometimes a pasuk, if the pasuk states something which is already known to us, or the pasuk seemingly states something that's known to us, so he's saying obviously the verse is not coming to tell us that, it's coming to tell us something else. Meaning to say, he's telling us that we don't translate the verse literally. There are many times we find the concept that the Torah writes something a certain fashion, but the Torah was given with an oral Torah. There's a written Torah and there's an oral Torah. And you need the oral Torah to explain what the meaning of the written Torah. As a lawyer, sometimes you need to comment, explain the document, right? There's certain terms that are used or said in a document, but you need clarification. What does that mean? So that's to say the Torah was written in a way, the Torah was never meant to be a holy book without explanation. Without explanation, we cannot interpret the Torah. The Torah was given with an explanation. Is that clear? And Rav Shimon understands that the explanation to this verse is not exactly the way the literal translation of the verse seems to indicate. So that's what Rav Shimon says. So if we go back, Mr. Safdie, do you remember where we got up to? So maybe we'll just run through my Reb Shimon. Where is Reb Shimon? We're on 17A4 in the art school. My Reb Shimon. The Gemara said that Reb Shimon went on record to say that when you bring the first fruits, there's a mitzvah to recite psukim, verses together with the first fruits, that you don't just give the gift, you express your thanks, as Adam spoke about last week at the Hanukkah dinner. And we spoke about when you verbalize something, it brings you to a better appreciation, and then the verbalization inspires you. So the Gemara now is looking for where do we find Reb Shimon going on record to say that if a person brings the first fruits to the Kohen, and the person who brought the first fruits did not recite, the person who brought the first fruits did not recite the verses, the psukim, that are supposed to accompany the first fruits, that if the Kohen would jump the gun and eat the first fruits without the recital of the verses, the Kohen is subject to the punishment of lashes for eating these first fruits without the recital of the psukim. It's Makkos, right? It holds you back from fulfilling the mitzvah of Bikurim, and therefore that's why there is lashes. So where does Rabbi Shimon go on record? So that's what the Gemara is finding. You stated Rabbi Shimon went on record. Where did he go on record? My Rabbi Shimon. Titania. We have a breita. It says, Trumat Yadecha. Don't eat in your personal gates the Truma. Eilu Bikurim. Trumat Yadecha is Bikurim, is the first fruits. That's what the Torah is saying. You can't eat the first fruits, which sounds like it's telling you you can't eat the first fruits, the Bikurim. The Kohen cannot eat it in his private home. He has to eat it in Jerusalem. Amar Rabbi Shimon. So comes Rabbi Shimon and he says, Ma bo zeh lelamdenu. What is this verse coming to teach us? Im la'ochlan chutz l'choma. If it's coming to teach us, which it seems to be teaching us, which the literal meaning of the verse would seem to indicate that if you ate it outside the wall, if it's coming to teach us that you're not allowed to eat it outside the wall of Jerusalem, kal v'chomer mima'aseh hakal, we don't need this verse to tell me that you cannot eat the first fruits outside Jerusalem. We know it from Ma'aseh Hakal. We know it from Ma'aseh Sheni, which is lighter. Rav Shimon wants to use the rule of Kal v'chomer. When you have a Kal v'chomer, when you have something which is light, something which is strict, if there's a certain law that applies to the light one, certainly it'll apply to the strict one. So that's what Rabbi Shimon says. And I don't need a verse. If I can learn it out from a Kal v'chomer, like the Gemara says, Lama likra, you wouldn't need a verse to tell me something that I could figure out on my own. We don't need a Torah to tell us a law that we could that's obvious because of this idea of Kal v'chomer. Is that clear, Adam? The Gemara says, what would be the Kal v'chomer? Uma masa hakal, masa sheni, which is lighter than Bikurim. The Gemara, when we turn the page, hopefully in the very near future, we'll see what way is masa sheni more, that second type, more lenient than Bikurim. We'll stay tuned. Uma masa hakal, masa sheni, which is light. If you ate it outside the wall, you will get lashes. If he's warned that he ate it outside the Yerushalayim, he gets lashes. Bikurim, the first fruits, which is much stricter, lo kol shekain. Certainly he should be subject to what? To lashes. Halaba kotuv, so the pasuk is only coming Ella la'ochel mibikurim ad shelo kara aleihem. The pasuk is telling us something else. If you ate the first fruits before you read the verses, before you read the psukim that accompany them, shehu loker. Morning mazel tov mabruk. We wish a great mazel. Ariel had a baby boy. Mazel tov, a great simcha. Last week, Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday. Now he has to learn a lot more. He's going to learn a lot more Torah because he has to teach his son Torah. There's a lot of big mitzvah he has to teach son Torah. We're so excited for Ariel. Yeah, very good. Right, so that's what the Gemara is going to, Mr. Safdie, Ariel, this. The Gemara is going to discuss this the next page. Mr. Safdie is asking the following question. We have there is to learn out a prohibition from a kal v'chomer, and to also is something that we generally will not learn a prohibition. Tell me something that's forbidden just based on logic. You need to have something written in to give a guy lashes, has to be written in the Torah, don't do this thing. And if you violate it, then you know the rule is if you violate, you get lashes. But if it's not written in the Torah at all, the Torah doesn't say anywhere that it's forbidden. You can't eat the first fruits without hearing the verses. You can't give a guy lashes for something like that. The rule is you don't punish somebody unless the warning is written in the Torah itself. There is a dispute, the Gemara says, whether you could punish somebody if the prohibition is written in the Torah, but the punishment is not written in the Torah. Would you be able to punish the guy through the use of a kal v'chomer? Meaning, if let's say the Torah tells us something you can't do, and let's say you want to, but it doesn't tell us the punishment. Okay? And would we be able to learn out the punishment? See, in general, the Torah tells us don't do something, it tells us the punishment. Don't desecrate the Shabbat. And Torah also tells us the punishment is death for desecrating the Shabbat. If a guy intentionally is warned, the Torah spells out the punishment. So therefore, the court has the ability to give a guy punishment, because the Torah not only told us the prohibition, the Torah tells us don't do work on Shabbat. The Torah tells us also, that's called the warning, don't do it. The Torah also tells us what the punishment is if you do it. If the Torah tells us one of the two, morning Avraham, the Torah tells us one of the two, so there's a discussion, can I learn that from a kal v'chomer? I mean, if the Torah tells us the warning, but doesn't tell us the punishment, I just remind everybody, Avram, to say Brechat Torah before we learn. You said it, you already said it, you said it, you're covered. So if the Torah tells us one and not the other, the warning, but it doesn't tell us the punishment, could you learn out the punishment from a kal v'chomer? Or the Torah tells us a punishment, but we don't find the warning, could we learn the warning from a kal v'chomer? So that's going to be a matter. So the Gemara is going to say, maybe there is a dispute whether you can learn out a punishment from a kal v'chomer, from that. But the warning you cannot learn out from a kal v'chomer. To say that something is forbidden, that will create, and as a result of that, you're going to give a guy lashes because there's a punishment. Yeah, the Torah has to write it black and white. It has to be black and white that the Torah forbade this item. The Torah says you can't do this. It's interesting how the Torah warns everybody. As a lawyer, maybe you could appreciate it, that the warning has to be, no, thank you. The warning has to be given in the Torah itself. Meaning it's not even enough for the witnesses to give the guy a warning. The Torah itself has to give the warning. The Torah itself, in order for a person to be subject to lashes, the Torah had to tell us black and white that this act is forbidden. Avram, am I clear or not clear? The Torah doesn't write something is forbidden. There's no such thing as giving a guy lashes for violating that. Even if he intentionally does it. If it's not written out in the Torah, you can't do this thing, but there's no lashes for such a thing. By the way, Avram, you can feel comfortable to speak up, don't worry. All right? Everyone should feel comfortable. This is not a lecture over here. We're having this is not Iran. We don't hold hostages here. I don't hold hostages, by the way. You come, you stay as long as you're able to stay. Exactly. Yes. Ma'aseh Sheni is you take it to Jerusalem and you, the owner, it's in your Jerusalem. Ma'aseh Sheni is that every there's a 6-year cycle and the 7th year is Shemitah. So every 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th year of the cycle, you take off. The first thing is you give truma to the Kohen. First thing the Kohen gets first. After the Kohen, the Levi. you give 10% to the Levi. Then after the Levi gets his 10% on whatever you have left, you give 10. The first and second and fourth and fifth year, you take another 10%, but that you don't give to anybody. That's for you. It's for you, your family. You take, it has to be, but it has to be eaten in Jerusalem. That's called Maaseh Sheni. It's called Sheni because it's the second Maaseh, the second type. The first Maaseh Rishon. Rishon means the first. The first goes to the Levi. The Sheni, the second goes to the what for yourself. You bring to Jerusalem and you use it and you eat in Jerusalem. And the Torah says, let's say it's too hard for you to carry all the food to Jerusalem. You live, let's say, a nice distance from Jerusalem. So you can redeem the fruits onto money. And once you redeem that's called Pidyon Maaseh Sheni. Once you redeem it onto money, now the fruits no longer have any holiness. Because until you redeem the fruits, you're not allowed to eat it outside of Jerusalem. It's forbidden, right? You have to go ahead and bring the fruits to Jerusalem. But if you can't carry it, you redeem it. But there is a charge for redemption. You have to add a fifth. And then you take the money and you bring the money to Jerusalem, and then you buy the food in Jerusalem with that money. You're not buying real estate with that money. You have to buy, Torah talks about what you buy, certain foods that you have to buy with that money in the old city and eat it in the old city. So that's what the Gemara is talking about. So therefore, that is Rabbi Shimon learns from a Kal V'chomer that he from a Kal V'chomer he learns that you can't eat the bikurim outside of Jerusalem. And the Gemara is going to ask Mr. Safdie's question: how could you learn a violation, a warning for eating something out of Jerusalem from a Kal V'chomer, from a logical idea? You can't learn a warning which is going to be used to subsequently punish the person based on a Kal V'chomer. So that's what the Gemara is going to ask. Stay tuned. We have to stay tuned to the next page. So the Gemara says, so therefore he says, this verse is teaching us, he concludes, that there's a prohibition for the Kohen who receives the first fruits. There are 7 first fruits of Israel that you give to the Kohen. The grapes, the olives, the dates, the pomegranates that Israel is known for. The Kohen who receives the fruits, is warned based on this verse that he can't eat these fruits until the Yisrael, the one who's bringing the fruits, who gives the gifts, says a few psukim, says a few verses of thanks to Hashem with it. That it's so important. We spoke about the card when you give a gift. We have some single guys here, get married, when you give a gift, make sure you enclose a nice card. Sometimes the card is worth more than the gift. I mean, maybe some people say, no, it's all about the gift. But it's the words. What? The card. Yes, the words. The words remain. Sometimes they'll save the card. It's meaningful. So, and not only it's meaningful for them, it's also meaningful for yourself. So therefore, there's an opinion that says that if you give the first fruits, you make the trip to Jerusalem to bring the first fruits, and you go to the Beit HaMikdash, and you have to bring the first fruits to Beit HaMikdash. You give it to the Kohen. If you don't say the psukim, the verses that are accompany the bringing of the first fruits, so to speak, the card that you're supposed to write, supposed to say, there's lashes for the Kohen if he eats it before those psukim are recited. That is the first lesson that Rabbi Shimon understands this pasuk is coming to teach us. The pasuk also says, "V'nidvotecha," your donation, your nedava. Nedava is like something you give as a result of your graciousness of your heart. You want to make there's certain things, there's certain kabbanot that you have to bring to the Beit HaMikdash because you're obligated to bring it, right? If a guy, let's say a guy by mistake forgot it was Shabbat, and he cooked up some water on Shabbat. Did a very serious violation, but it was done unintentionally. Well, how did you forget it was Shabbat? Do you ever forget your name? Do you ever forget your name? You forget Shabbat, that means there's something not exactly perfect with you. Meaning this, you're not on top of your game. Georgetown used to have a good basketball team. You're not on top of your game. My days. You're not on top of your game. And you're not on top of your game, it's held against you. Or, I didn't know I couldn't hook up water on Shabbat. Okay, why didn't you know? Why didn't you learn? Why did you educate yourself? Not an excuse. Okay, we're not going to kill you. We're not going to kill the guy if he didn't know. Well, he's going to have to go to the Beit HaMikdash and bring an offering. Bring a korban chatat. It's a sin offering. It's called a sin offering. It was a sin, unintentional sin. Unintentional sin is still a sin. But it's not the same level, but doing it intentionally. He needs an atonement. Right, Ariel? Person needs an atonement. Yes. The Kohen, you give truma. You give truma. Maaseh Sheni is 10% that belongs to you that you have to eat in Jerusalem, the owner. And Maaseh Rishon is 10% you give to the Levi. And the Levi can eat it wherever he wants. I think that's Hashem. See, this is a way to support them, but they don't have the type of lands that we have, and they're busy working in the Beit HaMikdash, so they need to be supported from the community. So Hashem created, right. I mean, I think you're right that people should, when they give it to them, it's like you hire somebody, or you have to pay somebody, but for doing a certain job, but do you thank them? Do you appreciate what they're doing? Hashem gave these people a job. The Kohanim have certain jobs. They have jobs to serve the community, like you said. The Leviim have a job to serve the community. They have to spend their time in the Beit HaMikdash, they have to sing Shirah. They're the gatekeepers. They guard the gates of the Beit HaMikdash. They have a job. Hashem says, but they have to, how are they going to pay their bills? So Hashem says, okay, we the community has to support them. But he does not tell us this, he doesn't give us a special mitzvah to say thank you to them. That on our own, we should say thank you to them. But when it comes to bringing the first fruits to the Kohen, the Torah says we have to give God a special thank you, a special declaration of saying, took us out of Egypt, and we had we came to Egypt, we had difficulties in Egypt, took us out of Egypt, came to the Holy Land. We thank you for that. That's the thank you over there. Now, I would think Ariel, Bez Hashem, when the Beit HaMikdash will be rebuilt, when you're going to give the truma to the Kohen, you're going to say thank you with the truma. You give to the Maaseh Sheni to Levi, you're going to say thank you. That's you. That's beautiful, Ariel. But the Torah does not tell us. There's no obligation from the Torah, from the verse of the Torah. That's what a person should do as a nice person, to show your make the Kohen feel appreciated and the Levi feel appreciated for the work that they do for the community. So the Gemara says, the korban todah shlamim. You give a thanksgiving offering to the Beit HaMikdash, or you bring a shlamim. You're bringing certain offerings. These offerings that are brought to the Beit HaMikdash, the meat from the offerings, from let's say the korban todah, the thanksgiving offering, and the shlamim, the peace offering. Peace meaning P-E-A-C-E. That's the shlamim. So these have to be eaten in Jerusalem. That's what the verse seems to be telling us. So Omer Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon says, "My boser lamdenu." Do we translate the verse literally that you can't eat the meat from the todah, from this Thanksgiving offering, or the meat from the peace offering? You can't eat it outside the Beit, outside Jerusalem? Is that what the the verses come to teach us? That we already know. If it's coming to teach us you can't eat that outside the wall, we can learn that from Masa Sheni. Masa Sheni cannot be eaten outside the wall. So this holy offering that you bring to the Beit HaMikdash certainly can't be outside the wall. If you eat the korban too prematurely, because after you slaughter the animal, what do? They catch the blood, the Kohen, anybody could slaughter the animal, any Kohen, non-Kohen. But mekabala ve'elech, from the catching of the blood, it has to be done by the Kohen, and the Kohen has to sprinkle some of the blood on the altar. So if the person, if they eat the food from the offering before the sprinkling of the blood was done, subject that's what Torah says, don't eat the korban prematurely. Before there was the zrika, before there was the sprinkling on the mizbeach, you can't eat the what. This is a very important part of the korban, of the atonement, is by placing the blood on the altar. And obviously there's reasons for all of this. And if you eat it before this part is done, subject to what? Kaleshes. That's what he says the pasuk is coming. That's how he understands. Even though that is not the literal meaning of the pasuk, Mr. Safdie. He says you can't eat in your gates the Todah and the Shlamim. Where does it say in your gates before the sprinkling? But he says that is what the pasuk means. When the translation of the pasuk is the meaning of the pasuk is not just talking about don't eat in your gates, don't eat outside Jerusalem. This offering, because that we know we have a kal v'chomer. So what does this come and tell us? Don't eat the animal before the sprinkling of the what? Of the blood. B'chorot. The verse also says b'chorot, the firstborn. The firstborn you can't eat. This firstborn animal that you give to the Kohen belongs to the Kohen, doesn't belong to Yisrael. We have no part of it. It's supposed to the Kohen. Just like when you redeem your firstborn, pidyon haben, money, the 5 silver dollars, they belong to the Kohen. So too, the firstborn animal belongs to the what? The Kohen. And what does it seem to be saying? You can't eat this firstborn animal outside of Jerusalem. But we know that already. If you tell me you can't eat the firstborn animal, right? Peterachem, the firstborn from the female animal, you can't eat outside Jerusalem. By the way, in the Tefillin, we have about that parsha, Kadesh li kol bachar. That's what we're going to say in a few minutes. Sanctify to me all the firstborn, because we came out of Egypt and Hashem killed the firstborn of the Egyptians, and they saved the Jewish people. So Hashem wants to remember that miracle. We redeemed the firstborn. We redeem the firstborn of the person. We give the animal, the firstborn animal to the Kohen. So if it's telling me you can't eat the firstborn, this korban outside of Jerusalem, it has to be in the old city. We have a kavachom for Maaseh. If Maaseh Sheni, this food, it's not a korban, can't be eaten outside Jerusalem. Certainly, the korban can't be eaten outside of Jerusalem. If you can't eat it before the sprinkling of the blood, you can't eat this firstborn animal till the blood was sprinkled on the altar. If Todah Shlamim, which is lighter, which is not as holy as a Bechor. Bechor is holy from its birth. It was already sanctified the moment it came out of the womb. It's already holy. A Todah Shlamim, you had to create the holiness. You had to consecrate the animal. And if an animal you had to make holy, you had to consecrate. You can't eat outside Jerusalem. So certainly the firstborn animal you can't eat outside Jerusalem. Eat the firstborn. Even after the sprinkling of the blood Shuhuloka, there's lashes. That means a non-Kohen, if you're not a Kohen, and you eat this firstborn animal that's given to the what? The Kohen, it's forbidden for you to eat this animal. And if you eat this animal, because you're not a Kohen, you're subject to what? To lashes. And that's how he understands the pasuk. I want to wish everyone a very beautiful day. And Mr. Safdie says the learning is beautiful. Torah is beautiful. Torah, we have to feel the sweetness of the Torah. That is the key. And anything that you enjoy, you come back to. So that's why we got to keep on enjoying the Torah. We want to welcome Avraham to our learning. Have a great